Rovers hide and seek. Rover was a very clever dog indeed. He could balance biscuits on his nose, toss them up into the air and catch them neatly in his mouth. He could shut the door and always waited for the click that told him it really was shut. And he could fetch father's paper for him and pay for it. He took the money in his mouth and brought the paper back in his mouth too. Another thing he could do was play hide and seek. You should have seen him. It was marvellous to watch him. He would stand behind a bush and wait patiently there while Mary or Peter hid themselves. He didn't shut his eyes, but he never looked round because he wasn't a cheat. Then, when the two children had hidden themselves, they would call, "Cuckoo, cuckoo." Rover would at once bound away from the tree and go to look for the children. He always found them no matter where they hid. Father said he smelt where they went. He was really very clever. He did love playing with Mary and Peter, and often he would go to their playroom and scrape at the door. "Roof," he said. "Roof." "There's Rover," Mary would say. "He's come to ask us to play with him. Come on, Peter, let's play hide and seek." Now, one day, Mary and Peter went out with their father. He wanted to take them to the zoo, and they were most excited. "Can we take Rover too?" asked Peter. "He always comes with us wherever we go, Daddy." "No, we can't take him to the zoo," said Father. "Dogs are not allowed at the zoo. You wouldn't like him to fight a lion or a tiger, would you, Peter? Or try to make friends with a polar bear?" "Well, Daddy, let's creep off without Rover knowing," said Mary. "He'll be so upset if he sees us going off without him. Really he will." So while Rover was having a nice crunchy breakfast of biscuits in the kitchen, the three slipped away out of the front door. Rover didn't know they'd gone at all. He went on with his breakfast quite contentedly, planning to have a good game of hide and seek with Mary and Peter afterwards. When he'd finished, he went upstairs to the playroom. He scraped at the door. He found it was open a little, so he went in. To his surprise, there were no children in there. Wherever could they be? Downstairs, perhaps, trying to get a piece of cake from Mother. So down went Rover and found Mother, but she was doing the ironing and she was rather cross. "Shoo, shoo," she cried. "Get out, Rover, I'm busy." Rover went into the garden, puzzled. Wherever in the world could those children be? Then as he stood by the old apple tree, he heard a call. "Cuckoo, cuckoo." Of course, thought Rover, his tail beginning to wag hard. They're playing hide and seek. Why didn't I think of that? They were both hiding somewhere. I'll go and find them. I heard them calling cuckoo. It sounded as if it came from the end of the garden. Down he trotted and smelt about by the wall there. But he could neither smell nor see the children. It was most puzzling. He held up his head and listened to see if he could hear them talking. "Cuckoo, cuckoo," he heard. "Tails and whiskers. That sounds as if they're up by the garden shed," thought Rover in surprise. "How could they have got from the bottom to the top of the garden without my seeing or hearing them?" He ran to the garden shed and looked inside and out. No children, nor smell or sound of them either. It was really most strange. Rover couldn't understand it. "Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo." Rover listened in astonishment. Well, this time it sounded as if the children were calling to him from the front garden. He trotted there and hunted thoroughly. No, they were not there either. Poor Rover. What a day of hide and seek he had, to be sure. You see, he didn't know or guess that the cuckoo had come back that day and was calling merrily all around about. He'd quite forgotten about that bird. He really and truly thought it was the children calling him as they always did when they played a game of hide and seek with him. Now, by the time that Mary and Peter came back, Rover was quite tired out. He'd hunted everywhere, in all the places where the cuckoo call seemed to be coming from. Mother could not think what was the matter with Rover. Whatever was he looking for, and why did he listen with his head on one side so often? But when Peter and Mary came home from the zoo and heard what Rover had been doing, and heard the cuckoo calling too, they guessed at once what had happened. "Oh, poor darling old Rover," said Mary, hugging him. "So you played hide and seek with the cuckoo all day long?" "Did you do that, old fellow? What a shame. Never mind, we'll have a proper game tomorrow, and you really will find us this time." Rover wagged his tail. He was still very much puzzled, but nothing mattered now that he had his dear little master and mistress back again. They played hide and seek the next day, but you know, the cuckoo did spoil it for him. He would call cuckoo before they were ready. I think he must love to play hide and seek too. Don't you?